All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to this video. In this one, we're going to be talking about variables. What is a variable and how do we use it? So, let me take you back to mathematics. Back to mathematics, yeah. No, you thought you ran away from maths. No, 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 no. There's a lot of maths everywhere. Everywhere you go, it's maths, 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 maths. So, uh, we defined what data types, what is a data type, and yeah, we discussed all of that. So right here, we're going to be talking about variables. Variables, if you go back to mathematics, you know how you have 3x is equal to, 3x minus 2y is equal to 45, right? So according to mathematics, let me just zoom this in. So according to mathematics, the 3 and the 2 are regarded as coefficients because they are in front of variables. And which are the variables? It's x and y. Why are they called variables? That is because they represent any number, right? They can be any number depending on the situation. So that's what basically a variable is. It can represent any particular type of data depending on the situation, right? So firstly, we're going to create a string variable, right? We're going to create a string variable named name, right? Or let's just say name, yeah, say name, right? So firstly, what we do, right? Let me just erase all of this. Yeah, let's erase all of this. So we're going to create a string variable named say name, right? So first, we need to define the data type. What is the data type of this variable? And it is going to be a string because I want to store a word. So I forgot to mention that strings usually store words and sentences. That's what you're gonna be seeing. That's how you're gonna be using your string all throughout. So a string is a combination of characters. Let me say, because a character means one thing, one symbol, one letter, one number. That is a character. So I'm defining that this variable is going to be a type of string. It's going to be a data type of string, and then I need to give the variable a name, right? So remember in my example, I had 3x minus 2y. So the name of the variable in this case is x, and the name of this variable is y. So they've given it names right there. So even in here, I need to give it a name. So what is the name? I'm going to use surname, right? So I'm going to use surname like this, but I want to type it. I want to type it in a nice way. So I'm going to say S and then a capital letter S. So what does this mean? This is not necessary, but I just would like to say, or as a reminder to myself, that okay, this small s is going to represent string. So every time I type a small s and then followed by something else, it means this is a type string. It's just a reminder to myself. It's not necessary. I can call this x. I can call it whatever I want. But for Java best practices, try to be as descriptive as possible. Okay. Notice how it's written. So it's small letter and then followed by a capital letter. Right? So this is how you name your variables. Always, it starts with a small letter. You do not start the name of a variable with a capital letter. You start with a small letter. That's how it is. And not only that, but you cannot start the name of a variable with a number or a symbol. Okay. Oh, no, you can't start with a symbol. You cannot start with a number. That is not the right Java. That is not the best Java practices. The best Java practices, you start with a small letter and try to be as descriptive as possible. Here I'm calling it surname. So as surname meaning the string surname. That's how I'm going to remember it. And then yeah, and then I'm just going to terminate, right? Or the semicolon just basically means terminate. So if you hear me say terminate, just know that I'm talking about a semicolon. I'm talking about the semicolon. Okay. And then next up, I'm going to create another variable. This one is going to be a type of character, right? So I write char, right? So this is how we do it, right? So char in small letters. Okay. So notice when I started with a capital letter, the color doesn't even change, right? It doesn't entertain me. That's because this means the two mean completely different things, right? So it needs to be, characters need to be in small letters. However, a string starts with a capital letter. So then char, I'm going to say C, and then I would like to create an initial. Right? So this variable named C initial is going to store an initial of someone. Right? And then this one named as surname is going to store the surname of a particular human being. Right. Next up, I would like to. Okay, now before we go over to before I create the rest of the variables, I just want to explain something real quick. So here I'm creating the variables. Right, I haven't stored anything inside the variables yet. Right, they're completely empty. That's because I have not put an equal sign. Right. I'm going to show you in this next example where I'm going to create the variable named age. Right? So this is going to be the age of someone. So I can write it as int, or I can write it as integer. So if I write it as integer, the I needs to be a capital letter. If I write it as int, then the entire thing needs to be in small cases. Right? So int, I'm going to say I age. Right? And then in this case, notice how I've just been terminating here. But in here, I'm going to put an equal sign, and I'm going to say 18, right? And then terminate. Okay. So there is a difference between doing it this way and doing it this way, right? So what is the difference? The difference is that underneath age, so for the age variable, I've created and stored something inside the variable, okay? So it's like me saying that 3x minus 2y is equal to 45. However, x is equal to maybe 7, right? So now we know that now the machine knows that x is 7, but it does not know what y is because I have not said what y is. All I said was y exists. So that's what's happening here. I've said that S surname and C initial exist within the program, but I have not given them the values yet. However, for this one, I've told you that I age exists and its value is 18. So what do you call there's a naming or there's a particular way of saying this. So in here I have I've declared C initial, right? Notice the 2 slashes here. So this is known as a comment, right? A comment is just a block of code that is not going to get executed. It is there to help whoever is reading the code to understand the code, okay? So just know it's not going to get executed. It doesn't matter. I can type anything in here. It's not going to give me an error because it does not look at the code that comes after the 2 slashes, okay? And then in here, right, so I just want to write this so that you can see that here I've declared C initial. However, here I have initialized I age. Okay, so initialized means I've given it a value already. However, declared, I have not given it a value. I've just said, okay, it exists inside the program, right? Somewhere, right? It's there somewhere, or I'm going to use it later, so I'm declaring it. Same as the string, I've declared that there's something called as surname, but I have not used it. Okay. Next up, we're going to store. We're going to say income. So for double, they like to use R, and then I'm just going to say income like this. So income, we're gonna say maybe like 1574, comma 50. Oh, actually, let's do our famous NSFAS amount, but with comma 50, right? So for 50 cents, right? Okay. Actually, let's turn this down because bank charges and stuff like that. So maybe like the bank charges like $2.50. There we go. Right. So that is your income, right? So notice how there's a decimal, there's no decimal, right? And it's not, you don't have to put a decimal here. It's just that when you're working with things like money, eventually or sometimes you're going to have decimals. So it's wise for you to declare money as a double. And then things that you're confident that there's never going to be a decimal. For example, your age, right? It can never be a decimal. Right? You don't say I'm 2.5 years old, and maybe the number of family members you have, they can never be a comma, right? You don't have half a family member. Okay. I know you like saying step brother, half brother. No, 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 no. They are your family member. Yes. Right. And the last one that I'm going to talk about is the Boolean, right? So you're going to say Boolean, right? All small letters. And I'm just going to say is married, right? And then I'm going to set this one to false, right? Like this. Oh, I forgot to terminate here. So there's my termination. I've terminated. So there it is. Boolean is married, false. Right? So the person is not married, or whoever it is not married, actually. So what have we learned here? We've learned that every time you create a variable, there has to be a data type for it. Always. You cannot create a variable that does not have a data type. Java is not going to allow that. And then each data type works differently compared to others. As you can see, Boolean only stores true and false. Int only stores whole numbers, right? So all of them have their own purpose. So I hope you guys have learned something, and I will see you guys on the next video.